What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review a 2007 mixtape by Bizarre. Basically, this product is called Bizarre's World, and it came out in the fall of 2007. So the thing about this particular product is this is kind of like a supplement to Bizarre's 2007 album Blue Cheese and Coney Island, which was basically a classic album. Definitely appreciate the impact that one. Had a lot of good bops on there. Had like some Tech Nine songs, had some Twisted members on there. King Gordy was on there a number of times with some show stealing verses and energy. That was some good pitches like that. A couple of D12 members were on there within that Route to Pharaohs. Just a lot more of like a darker type project for folks that maybe, I reviewed that way back in 2015, so it's been quite a while, but I enjoyed that project quite a bit back in those days, and I continue to enjoy that album today. I'd have to say it's just within the tone, but it is a different, like I feel like Handicap Circus, which was Bizarre's debut, major label debut, was just kind of more of like Eminem type fare. It just felt like Eminem leftovers and pitches like that. Just something of more of that particular type fold, more of Eminem slime, but Blue Cheese and Coney Island was just different variables. Just kind of had some extra stuff in there, kind of like Tech Nine and King Gordy. Some of those type folks just embrace horrorcore a lot more, and Bizarre kind of went in his own direction a lot more as far as those pitches kind of happened. Just a lot more his underground and warp type appeal. Just more to like his true, more to his name of being like Bizarre and just pitches like that. But there were some good songs on Blue Cheese and Coney Island that at least had some degree of commercialness, like So Hard and Fat Boy. Fat Boy was just like kind of similar to Eminem's typical songs like Without Me and Just Lose It, some of those type pitches. So it has some good fare. This is like a supplementary type mixtape, some good goodies on here to be able to get within that pitch. It's definitely going to get a relatively high score within the aspects. Not quite a classic, but it's definitely on the cusp of being it. I mean, really, there's just minor complaints about this product as a whole. I'd say it's real excellent type fare. It's stock and typical Bizarre as far as those pitches going to happen. It's more quality product as far as that would particularly going to happen. But the thing about this mixtape is just it's tougher to track down. I was not really able to find this on like DatPiff back when I was not able to really find this on websites that would have had DatPiff mixtapes like the Internet Archive or some of those type places, Mixtape Monkey, some of those type fairs that I say it's just not that easy and commonly to find. Just being able to say it is on YouTube, but it's just kind of within the pitch. It's very low key within the tones. I was barely able to get really track down this particular mixtape, but it is worth it if you are able to find it. I would definitely say if you've downloaded this mixtape to hold on to it because it's just within the concept of not being as commonly available. And this is a product that not as much full bound that Wikipedia really knows about. It's not super common that things are kind of talked about. I want to say it was on Rate Your Music for a little while, but I guess they took it off as far as those pitches kind of happen. But this is within the tone that I do kind of tend to hate when some of these type of informations kind of get subtracted from the internet just because of the tone of this is some excellent type fair to be able to have. So it definitely deserves the attention within the tone behind it. But it just feels like more and more of these things are starting to become a product of yesteryear and just not commonly talked about as full bound. But what I'd say is definitely worth it just to snag up some of these. There's some King Gordy appearances on here, D12's on here a couple of times. There is like a long lost Proof verse from probably maybe even 2006 or 2005, some pitches like that, just within the fair. It's one of the more recent appearances from Proof as far as those pitches can happen. So it's good that Bizarre was able to snag one of those in his final days. Excellent type fair for that. Like I was saying, King Gordy is on here a number of times now. For the most part, he doesn't really drop a verse apart from on the song with Crucial Conflict, which is on the floor, but he does drop some pretty rickety type hooks on here to kind of get some of that fair. He's not as crazy as he is on Blue Cheese and Coney Island, but these are just some extra type bops that, there's countless hundreds of Bizarre and King Gordy team up, so it's just some good type fair to get some of that. There are some mixtape songs on here. One to Window Shopper, one to Hurricane Chris's A Bay Bay, and then there's like one that I don't remember as much. I've heard this particular production. The D12 song with King Gordy on there has a mixtape production on there that I don't remember where it's from. I really don't know where that one. That's one that I just couldn't figure out as far as those pitches. But there's at least 3 mixtape songs. But basically, there's 22 songs on this particular mixtape, and slashing like the interlude that narrows it down to 21. But out of those 21 songs, at least 2 of them are to be found on Blue Cheese and Coney Island, the album that came out in the same month as this particular product. So those 2 songs would be the Fat Boy Dance and then So Hard. And So Hard was a single off of Blue Cheese and Coney Island. So both those type ones. Not gonna slash the score because those are good songs. I think I didn't recommend So Hard as much back in 2015, but I like that song more now. It's just a more makeshift kind of in the slumish type way it is to get within that tone. Good pitch behind that. But basically, with the remaining 19 songs, I wound up recommending 16. So only 3 songs I don't recommend on here in any fashion. It's just I Got Hose, Robbing the Dope Man, and the outro freestyle. So basically, the outro freestyle was just not a freestyle instrumental that attracted me that much. Just didn't really have the fare behind it. It was just kind of one that just felt just not as on par with the rest of this project, just in terms of those tones. Probably, I don't know, just didn't really have the composition I Got Host is just kind of a jury type one, just kind of some day commerce, just kind of more typical of like handicap circus type days. Just some of that summer jury, but just didn't pull out the vibe nearly as well as like the particular product of it kind of normally happens. Like there's just some better moments for that. But this, I mean, this album really doesn't throw back too often late to handicap circus. It's more kind of like I would say like the prototype. This is kind of like the prequel to Blue Cheese and Coney Island. I would definitely feel like this kind of a younger brother to that particular product as far as those pitches kind of happen within the tone, but it nails the particular vibe. But I Got Hosed just didn't do as much as being a leftover from like Handicap Circus, and then basically Robin the Dope Man was one of these type ones that this is a more kind of Night Travers type one, like 3-6 Mafia type fare, but distant pull off as well as like Walk Like a Gangsta and some of these other type ones on here kind of did. Wildin' and like Watch the Gun, some of those type tones. Those particular songs just did it better. I mean, most of these nailed that particular vibe pretty well with that freneticness, but that was just one that didn't, was the song Robin the Dope Man. But yeah, this mixtape gets a 9.5 out of 10. 16 out of 19 would normally be like a 10 out of 10, but I just look after within the fair as far as those pitches kind of happened. Yeah, I'm trying to think if I do want to give this mixtape like a 10 out of 10. I mean, I feel like 16 out of 19 is pretty exact within the tone as far as those pitches kind of happen, but just within the possibility of not really being able to find this particular product, just the concept of whether or not it's going to be readily kind of available. I look after it. I mean, I'll go ahead and just give it a 10 out of 10. I just look after within the tone. I feel like the only reason why I wouldn't is just I feel like the fact that there's only two songs that are on another project is pretty good for a mixtape. So just the fact that Bizarre was dropping original material like this just for consumption like that, just on in the mid late 2000s 2007, most of this is original, and most of these songs just song after song after song hits that heavily. I just would say, yeah, it might as well be a 10 out of 10. So it's 10 out of 10 on here. Really only three songs that I don't recommend just within the fairs. That's just typical type fashion. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and get to some of these. The thing about it is just the fact that there's not really a playlist for this particular mixtape, so I'd have to keep clicking on the individual videos as far as those pitches going to happen, so I don't have as much common memory with going back to these. This review would probably take much longer than it needed to, so I'm just going to kind of go through some of these type ones just off the cuff and just kind of more memory as far as those pitches going to happen, but it's just kind of within the tone. But Walk Like a Gangsta is like an out on the night prowl kind of thump for like some cut loose and outing enjoyment to kind of get here, just some stroll type music to kind of get some night fare and just a good smoke trip to kind of have for some of that typeness. Just get some swishers, just like the autumn air, some pitches like that. Plenty of songs like this that I'd say Watch for the Gun, like I was saying, is like that. Wildin' is kind of like that. Robbing the Dope Man is kind of like that if you do have more taste for that particular song. So there are some ones that just with that typical kind of 3-6 Mafia type fare. So I'll go ahead and talk about some more of these type ones just to get towards them. Watch for the Gun has a real glaring type beat. This is probably one of the best ones on here, and a more kind of typical 50 Cent East Coast type fashion. It's like a glaring, more intensive kind of East Coast 50 Cent kind of paranoia to kind of get here. This great dark night commerce kind of have within that particular tone. So this reminds me of something Lloyd Banks or 50 Cent would kind of rap on some of those type ness. Feels like a very Aftermath type sound. I want to say Bizarre was possibly on Aftermath around this time. Not really as full blown sure. He kind of, I don't want to say he got dropped from his label, but Handicap Circus didn't really do that super terrific. So it's just kind of the concept he might have separated. And he was just, I'm glad that he was still able to put out albums, but he kind of took like the Tech Nine approach and just kind of lessened his budget and just worked with the underground type fare. But some of these do kind of have like some of that meld of kind of feeling like Aftermath leftovers that still feel like they have the Dr. Dre, Eminem, 50 Cent kind of hands-on approach about them as far as those pitches can happen. But some of these, there's ones on here that feel like Blue Cheese and Coney Island, but there are some ones that just feel like Aftermath leftovers. Popping in slow motion is a nice one. It's like a hella trippy kind of dance club bounce kind of get here. I do like some of these social type ones. Very social trip out. I'd have to say about this one. Just having fun out on the town. I'd have to say about this particular one. This really feels like you're kind of skewed kind of on the nightclubs and pitches like that. Just really having a head trip of a time to some of that type fare. Good concept for some of these type ones. This real trippy type one. I mean, Bizarre is pretty wild party animal as far as those pitches kind of happen. So he does have some of these, especially back in 2007, some of those type fares. I will say that this is not as crazy as Blue Cheese and Coney Island. That was definitely a pretty feral album, especially when King Gordy and Bizarre were really getting excited with some of those type of songs on there. Like, I forget some of those ones, but like one of the songs that had Tech Nine on there was King Gordy, Tech Nine, and Bizarre, which is a pretty crazy type one. And then there was like some ones that had another cat on there. I could probably put one of these like the connotation, but some of these were just really blitzing just as far as the appeal. There's one where King Gordy really shrieks in and talks about putting a hole in your head the size of a CD. So it's just a concept as far as that kind of goes. It's some excellent type fare for that. This is a lot more of a trippy project. There's some ones on here like Pop In slow motion, Puff Puff Pass, Come Over, I Can't Get Any Higher. This is a very woozy type product. You're just gonna really feel good about this particular product as far as that kind of goes. Along with it, just a very sludgy type one. Plenty of these ones on here. Take Some Ecstasy would be another one like that. So it's just some good tones. But speaking of Take Some Ecstasy, this is a nice one. It's like a hell slogged and dreary kind of day malaise to kind of get to. Just too bent to have usual cohesion about the day. I'd have to say about this one, just really one where you're gonna have to have like a trip day. Just kind of take a day off, just enjoy the day of just being slurred out as far as those fares gonna happen. It's probably one where you're not going to touch down too evenly on this particular day, just within the tone behind it. Just look after the tone, but it's just good concept for some of these type ones. Obviously, smoke responsibility just within the tone behind it, but just within the aspects for as that kind of goes along with it. It is what it is. It's a quality one as well. This feels like a posse cut. This is kind of like a low key kind of mixtape posse cut. This feels like a haunting, or this is like an in between grit kind of day. I'd have to say here. Just has like a D12 and Eminem feel, but just more mixtape bound. I'd say within that tone. This is just some standard struggle to kind of get here. Just within the pitch, this feels like one of those type ones that 50 Cent would have kind of done on Get Rich or Die Trying. It's just a more grit and goalie type one to kind of have within that particular tone as far as those pitches kind of happen. This has like, feels like pretty much off of Devil's Night or Get Rich or Die Trying. Some of those type pitches kind of get within that. I mean, I say Eminem feel, but it's just very minorly. This is probably a song that Eminem would have done. This is like a song like Soldier off of the Eminem show that this is like an in-between type one that this is not really going to be marketed as a single, but it works within that tone. Another pretty slogged one to kind of get here is Teenage Love. This like a simmering kind of summer sleaze kind of have within this aspect. Basic frolic, just kind of smoke a stogie, some basic mellow bay type vibes kind of get here. Just standard fare, just simple kind of warm weather romance as far as this pitch kind of having a good song to bass to. I just would say within the tones. It's just a good aspect. Just kind of simple June, July, August type fare. Simple kind of June, July, August type romping just within the pitch behind it as far as that particular happens with it. Just some good type, basic kind of warm weather type bounce just within the tone. I mean, it's a little bit, it just feels more of like this kind of ambient type one. It's not quite as turned up as far as those pitches going to happen, but this is kind of like kind of the more mood of just like life's a trip, some of those type moments just within the tone behind it, but it's good aspect. Wildin' is a nice one. It's like a skittery kind of demon time activity, I would say here. Just snack run and kind of mug music to kind of get just within that tone. Just ponder basically within that mean mug music to kind of ponder in the same sense as far as that kind of goes. Just goes great with Watch for the Gun as far as this pitch going to happen. Great 3-6 Mafia type fare. Just smoking the night wind, get some goodies, get some snack cakes, get some checks mix, some of those type fares just within a tone behind it. Just basic night runs, homies type music. Puff Puff Pass is a quality one as well. It's like a traditional kind of smoke up and get hella burnt type tone to kind of get just within some of those type fares. Just wake up early, hop to it, just get some rolling paper, some of that goodness, just to have basically smoke all day. Some of these type ones goes great with Take Some Ecstasy, probably within the tone. If you're just gonna smoke, I would say Take Some Ecstasy works if you're just gonna smoke as well. It's just kind of some jury typeness, just kind of have for some high factor. Just turn on the television, not realizing that the television's off or that the television, you don't even know what's going on. Some of those type pitches just within the tones of some of that type fare. Basic type aspects for some of those. Spend the Night is a real excellent one. This is the song that has the one of the last proof verses on here. It's a pretty good pitch for that. It's like a solid kind of house party noise, I'd say here. Just album quality, I would definitely feel like great secret proof verse, like I was saying. This is like some polished sludge. So definitely appreciate the appeal of this, just within the tone of being able to say this is a mixtape cut. A lot the quality thing about Bizarre is just the fact that he was album bound. He kind of similar to like D12 with like their Return of the Dozen mixtapes. Just the fact that those were kind of mixtapes was just the fact that they had album polish, just because they were more vanilla rappers. When you get someone vanilla like Bizarre, or when you get someone vanilla like D12 or Bizarre or Eminem doing mixtape type fare, it just feels like leftover cuts as far as those pitches kind of happen. It's just within the tone that in a halfway sense, this is just kind of seen as like a vanilla mixtape just because the tone was Bizarre was still relatively in the commercial spotlight in mid-late 2007, just within the fair that it had only been a few years since D12 World and Handicap Circus, some of those type pitches when he had more Eminem affiliation. So it's just kind of like a probably a more distinct kind of mixtape to have kind of gotten around that particular tone. Just definitely a good starting point for some mixtape type fare. Just a good, nice one. And on top of that, it has one of the last proof verses, just some good pitches for that. Just feels like an Aftermath type sound, like some of these ones I've listed, some of those type ones. Watch for the Gun, some of those type ones, and Walk Like a Gangsta, some of those. Another good one for that relative pitch is Big Boy Club. This definitely feels like a Slim Shady LP kind of sauntering to kind of get here to some city outings. I would definitely feel like Lil Burnt, kind of a jazzy, halfway social kind of song to kind of get within that tone. Just takes it back. Definitely some of those type ones, like As the World Turns off the Slim Shady LP. That's the same kind of hop and bop kind of laundromat type music. This bar hop some of that type fare just within a standard type nist just to get it within the traditional kind of outs. Just another one that has that vanilla type feel, but just a good aspect kind of get some of these. So this is probably one of the more immediate ones to go for. I feel like a lot of these just within the pitch. I'd say Big Boy Club is a nice one. Popping in slow motion is a nice immediate one. Like Big Boy Club's a nice immediate one. Popping in slow motion is a nice immediate one. Puff Puff Pass is a pretty nice one just to get for like standard smoke sense. Come Over is a pretty quality one, like a more house party sludge type way. And Take Some Ecstasy is a nice dreary kind of one. So there's just some ones on here, plus some of these night thrills of ones that are more like 50 Cent and 3 6 Mafia. So this is a pretty balanced type project. Like I said, deserves a 10 out of 10. On the Floor is a quality one. Now this has Crucial Conflict and King Gordy. This is the only one that King Gordy raps on as far as this pitch. He does a lot of hooks on this particular product, but it's the only one where he full blown drops a rap verse. So I would say it's pretty dope to get Crucial Conflict on here. They don't commonly pop up nowadays. Good type fare. So this is like a very smarmy and kind of lofty dance club soul to kind of get here. Just a drowsy kind of embellish to kind of have just amongst like the night shift. Definitely just woke up 8:30 p.m., 7:30 p.m. pitches like that. It's overall some dope vibes. So this one is basically like a dance club song where you're really kind of tripped out as far as those pitches can happen. Maybe real high as hell, just kind of droopy red eyes as far as those pitches can happen where you want to go lay down and sleep just within some of those type tones. Have some food in your system, this kind of aspect where you're just feeling a lot more sluggish and just more smarmy as far as those pitches can happen with it. Just a good type tone, but it works for it. I do think most of the time dance floor songs are just a little bit more lively just within the pitch, but this is just one that would probably be played at like 3:34 in the morning as you're getting ready to head out as far as those pitches can happen. But I do like the appeal behind some of this sludge about it as far as that kind of goes. Come Over is a pretty nice one as well. Good concept here. This is another posse cut. It's like a low key kind of house party sludge kind of get within that tone. Just nice thump and woozy kind of traverse kind of have within that aspect. This late night fare, just Bella's commotion kind of have within that pitch. Just standard after effect. It just like house party type commotion, standard aspect of like house party kind of commotion, just past probably 8:30, 9:30 p.m. as far as those pitches kind of happen, just some late enjoy kind of get within that tone. Good type fare. Do you like some of these more localized, bizarre type bops to kind of get on here? Because it just felt like that didn't happen as super commonly on like Handicap Circus and like the D12 albums like Devil's Night. I mean, maybe Purple Pills was kind of like that, but that may be about one of the few ones as far as that full blown. But just getting more localized type fare where it's just more amongst like the Red Cup and kegs, more amongst like the Red Cup and keg stand type music, beer pong, some of that type fair liquor pong as far as those pitch kind of have it, just some excellent typeness kind of get. That's what I have to say. Good type pitch. And then I can't get any higher is an excellent one as well. This is another nice one that has King Gordy on here. This feels like a haunting kind of album cut. I would feel like here just a mini kind of King Gordy and Bizarre team up to kind of get definitely some 3-6 kind of vibes. Definitely want to get high and bliss as hell as far as those pitches kind of happen. This real aspect of just being able to torch and just kind of enjoys. I mean, this is kind of one that feels like this is another one that has some great album quality type appeal just within the tone. This feels like something that would have been on like an Aftermath album, some of those type pitches like Exhibit or Stat Quo, some of those type folks would have done like the mid 2000s. Just some good pitches for that, I'd have to say. But I mean, yeah, this mixtape just definitely delivers upon just like the bite of just having this. Is basically, I mean, this is just basically like a cousin to like Eminem around this particular time. If you continue to be upset over the fact that Eminem didn't drop an album in 2007, this might as well be like one of the closest things and the next best thing you kind of get within that tone, because it has like the same aesthetic and overall composition of a lot of what Eminem probably would have done or D12 would have done in mid-late 2007. It's just kind of a secret treat of a project, not super common, really not super commonly kind of talked about. This is just a very overlooked type project. Like I think at least some folks know about Blue Cheese and Coney Island, but this is like more bountiful kind of packaging that really has like a lot of good album quality typeness to kind of get to some secret treats on here. Maybe it's not as full-blown immediate, but it's just within the tone. I think there's enough immediacy about it to be able to say these just kind of have like some uncommon kind of edge to kind of get within that tone for just not typical kind of format around that particular time. So it's basically like finding an Eminem mixtape in 2007 if he would have done one. It's just within the pitch, just some secret stuff kind of get here. It's kind of the next best thing I would say just within that tone. That's just the pitch behind it. So yeah, this mixtape gets a 10 out of 10. I would have to say just within the tone. Mixtape gets a 10 out of 10 just within the tone. The Social Score I'll go ahead and give like a 9.5 out of 10. I feel like within the tone behind it, a lot of this is pretty excellent on here. I do like the guests on here. King Gordy really helps out this project. Crucial Conflicts on here. I do feel like this dub music has some good stuff on here. D12's on here a few times. It's plenty of good, excellent productions just within low-key type factors. Just kind of the concept that Bizarre doesn't always commonly get the spotlight. And I feel like in terms of that, I mean, probably obviously like a song like Fat Boy or some of those type of ones, or like some of the craziest King Gordy moments would probably be some easier kind of starting points on Blue Cheese and Coney Island. This is definitely like some secret trees once you're more a fan of that particular style and more adapted to it. I'd say just within an excellent type fair, you're going to get some of these. Really, I mean, it kind of takes maybe a mild amount of warming up to Bizarre within that pitch, but it really shouldn't be that much as long as you have like a relative taste for underground type fair, especially out of the mid late 2000s. So it's just stock highlight is if you like Tech Nine, King Gordy, some of those type folks, Cut Calhoun, Hobson, some of these type folks, Swizz, a lot of these folks, this is right up your alley as far as those pitch can have this blistering type one to kind of get. But the only problem with it is it's just very tough to track down. It might be even tougher if this doesn't get distributed more. I'd say it definitely needs to, but just within tons. So in terms of the future, like Bizarre has had a pretty frenetic track record. He's put out plenty of these just within that tone just to be able to say I'm going to get to some of these other type ones. There's definitely some more mixtapes to get to. I'm trying to find some more of these. I know there's like a 2012 album I want to get to that had like a Fury Cat, something like that. So there's some other ones I do want to get to, like his 2021 album Dumpster Juice, some of those type ones. There's plenty more to get to within that fair. There's some other D12 mixtapes going to get to. I recently found some more Eminem stuff, so there's plenty of these pitches, plenty more exciting stuff to kind of get. But this is another classic here, and it's definitely worth tracking down. Definitely invest.